Oh, thank you.
Can I do a sound check on Zoom, please?
Yes, I can hear, thank you.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Wilton Town Council. I'll open the meeting. A short announcement first. It is with great sadness that I have to
Recording in progress.
two long-standing Wilton Town Council members, Councillor Teresa Taylor on the 4th of February and Councillor Andy Kinsey on the 7th of February. I thank them both for their many years of outstanding service to the community of Wilton. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Harrison, Councillor Hilliard, Councillor Moore and Councillor Flanagan.
Thank you. Okay, so I now suspend standing orders for community engagement for matters which are only on this agenda, please. 15 minutes is set aside to allow local people to raise their issues and concerns. Questions and statements are restricted to 3 minutes. Questions not answered at the meeting will be answered in writing or may appear as an agenda item for the next appropriate committee meeting. Okay, do it. Okay. Alexandra Boyd, that was close.
Hi, thank you. Will all aspects of the audit reports be discussed, or are there confidential parts that will not be shared with the public this evening? If certain parts of the audit are deemed confidential, shouldn't these still be shared with residents, since they concern public spaces accessible to all? It would be good practice to make residents aware and let them decide whether to use these spaces or not. This is why I advocate for full disclosure and transparency in all audit reports. My third question, will residents be able to receive copies of the audit via email after the meeting? Since councillors now have had access to the audit reports, this should not be denied. I previously requested these reports through an FOI request, but I was refused on the grounds that councillors had not yet seen or considered them. By the end of this meeting, there should be no reason for me or any other resident to have to submit another FOI request to obtain email copies of these reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Ariana Femina.
Good evening.
Evening.
The only thing I know about these audits is when they were received, because the dates are on the agenda, and it looks like they were received 2 months ago. So I just have a few questions. I hope they're sort of targeting the right direction. Number one, has any new health and safety guidance been provided to hires of the pavilion or other public buildings? 2, how often does the defibrillator get checked by the cleaner? Defibrillator. 3, how often does the cleaner do the Legionella testing? Which leads me on to 4, who is doing these checks in the current long-term absence of the cleaner to ensure the footballers are safe when using the showers? These are our public buildings, paid for by the residents of Wilton and used by the residents of Wilton. The number one top priority of the proper officer, i.e. the clerk, is health and safety. So I assume the documents have been well studied. What I don't understand looking at the web page and the agenda is, why is there no officer report or attachments? So I don't know if the councillors have had one, but the public definitely can't see one. And how can the councillors be advised by the town clerk if she hasn't written an officer report? Because normally every single meeting there is an officer report. That's number 6, I think. How can the councillors be advised by the town clerk if she hasn't written an officer report? Thank you.
As before, Maria, could I ask you to send your list of questions in so that we make sure we don't miss anything?
That's 6, yeah. Okay. Will do.
Do I have any more Mr. Matthews?
Yeah, really on what Alex said, are we going to get a chance to read these reports after the meeting, if they can, once they're passed tonight?
Okay, thank you. Do I have any questions from Zoom participants, please?
Yes, I have, please. It says on the agenda for tonight's meeting that members of the public can ask questions. Next to community engagement, it says questions can only be asked on matters on this agenda. This implies that we should be able to see the documents being discussed. None of the reports from the audits of Wilton Town Council buildings and safety issues have been published on the Town Council website and do not appear with the agenda. How can members of the public ask relevant questions without reading the audit or at least a summary of the audit? So my first question is, why have the audits not been published before the meeting so they can be read by members of the public? And that way you'd have a genuine discussion with both councillors and members of the public having the relevant information. Question 2, when are the audits going to be published? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from Zoom participants, please? Okay, in that case I'll reinstate standing orders. So we need to respond to the community engagement questions. As far as I'm aware, all aspects of these documents will be discussed or open for discussion at this meeting. There will be no areas for exclusion. I certainly haven't requested any. I'll confirm with the clerk these will be shared after we've discussed these tonight. Is there a timeline when that will happen? Or some of these?
I was thinking they'd probably go on the website. I don't know what the council wants.
Okay, so they could appear on the website as a publicly available document. And from there you would be able to download the PDF or whatever that's available.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
It might not be straight away though, it might be next week before
Yes.
they're on the website.
Gives a little time to put it all on the website. That's a lot of information. Has any new health and safety guidance been updated for the pavilion and other venues?
No.
So the answer to that at the moment is no. Cleaning of the defibrillator, is that part of the cleaner's routine? Or the defibrillators?
Checking of the
Checking.
Oh, checking.
Checking.
I thought it was cleaning, sorry.
No, checking of it, so to check that
Yeah.
it's working. They are.
So that is a procedure that is done.
And that will be done next week, which is 4 weeks.
4 weekly, okay. How often is the Legionella testing done?
Monthly.
Monthly? And how will we cover this with our cleaner being off at the moment?
I'm not sure at the moment because I'm not sure if that's something that officer can do.
Okay,
Sorry, can I just clarify? So the defib will be checked next week and the Legionella is done monthly, so, but we don't yet know who's going to do that, is that
We don't know who's going to do the Legionella testing.
We don't know who's going to, sorry, just go back one, who's going to do the defib check?
That'll be me, I expect.
Okay.
Unless any volunteers?
I don't know how, I'm not competent to do that.
I can do it.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Am I right in thinking the next was why there was no officer report?
Yeah, there wasn't an officer report because it was the audits and I was told that it was...
As far as I'm aware, the procedure we're doing tonight is reviewing all these audits and deciding what, basically what items within the reports, discuss the findings and agree any actions following the assessments undertaken in November. So we're looking at and assessing these audits and putting forward what needs to be done from the action reports. I think there was one more. I missed that one.
There was, it was how can council be advised by clerk if she hasn't written a report? The council has read the reports and the council is...
As you're aware, we've had the report since December to digest as councillors. And in answer to Mr Matthews, they will be on the website as soon as we can get them on there after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And the member of the public from Zoom was questioning the section on the agenda about questions. That's because it's additional meetings and members of the public had the opportunity last week to raise questions. They've got the opportunity next week to ask general questions. So this meeting was
specifically for
these
review.
items.
Sorry, I think there may have been a my interpretation of that question was members of the public might wish, I guess this might come up at a future meeting, but I think the context of that tonight was members of the public might wish to ask a question about what's on the audit, but are unable to do so at tonight's meeting because the audit is not yet published. That was my understanding of the question.
Okay, and that is a statement of fact, isn't it?
Oh, you think it started with a, how can members of the public ask questions?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Right, so the questions should be, let's say, available in the next
Well,
meeting.
I'm only guessing, but once these minutes are published, they may raise questions from members of the public, which may appear on subsequent meetings. I'm just thinking.
That's what I would imagine would happen.
May happen.
These documents were sent to the council. The council are considering them. Because of the way the council works, it's being done at a meeting that is open to the public, not a public meeting. And so it's for the councillors to consider the reports and then afterwards for the public to question it. But you have been elected to represent the community.
Yeah, okay. So I think the other questions will be answered by the fact that we've said that the audits will be published as soon as we can after this meeting is finished. Okay, is that complete? So the next item is to ask if there are any declarations of interest. No. To consider any dispensation requests received by the town clerk.
None received?
And Wilton Town councillors are reminded that it is their duty to ensure that their register of interests is kept up to date with Wiltshire Council. Next item is to agree, whether we have any items to exclude the press and public. Do we have any items that we're putting into that category? I have none. Okay, so there are no items for exclusion on this agenda. So the main part of this evening's meeting is to receive the reports, discuss the findings and agree any actions following the assessment undertaken in November. Private contractors were brought in to do these audit assessments and they were completed at the end of November, and reports were received by the council in early December. So the first report to assess is the general risk assessment. Now, if councillors have digested these documents, I might add, in total there are something like 500 pages of documentation that come with all these reports. I would suggest we go to the, as it were, the action statements at the end of this document, and that's page 24. Under the section of management of health and safety, we go on to risk assessments and audits of asbestos management. The hazard is the inhalation of asbestos fibres, and people exposed to the hazard obviously are the general public and contractors, anybody involved in the buildings where this material might be present.
I think those surveys have been done, haven't they? Were they done on the 20th?
No, they haven't been done. They should be emailed on Monday to say this Thursday, but I haven't heard back from him since replying.
So Thursday the 13th is okay?
I just wondered if we could deal with asbestos when those reports come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The most important thing was to get them.
Get the reports done.
Yeah.
Yes. So they flagged up that there was a need for an asbestos audit to be done.
3 locations. Yes.
2 locations.
3.
3, sorry. The council offices, the public toilets and the cemetery buildings. And the second flagged item in the report, the general health and safety report, was the fire safety overview. The hazard was sources of ignition, combustible material, inadequate means of detection, stroke alarm systems, inadequate controls, emergency procedures, training drills, inadequate access and arrangements for emergency services. That's the broad category.
Sorry, which page are you on?
I'm on page 34.
Mm-hmm. 3.2.8.
So,
I can confirm that the fire risk assessment was done that week after the health and safety visit.
Okay, so that fire risk assessment's already been done by Wilton.
It's in.
Okay.
It's one of the other reports. Isn't it?
Yeah. All right. So are there any other flagged items that the councillors are concerned about? I think there was one more.
sorry, I must have made a mistake here because we were on page 24 with asbestos and we decided to move on because those surveys are booked. So then I scrolled down to the next point and I got cemetery safety.
But they're all green, so we don't need to.
Oh,
Is it?
oh, okay, sorry.
Is there something?
So we're only looking at the ones that are
I've
flagged
got
as.
current risk as yellow and then residual risk as
So
green.
yellow is moderate, but if you look at the last page, you scroll right down to the very last page, I think it is.
Oh gosh, I'll never find my way back again.
No, I know.
Oh, so
Oh no, it's not on this report, but it's like a rag status.
yeah.
Red, amber, green, so anything, except there's 4 colours on this one. Anything that's,
So we're
this
not,
is my understanding of it anyway.
Okay.
Anything that is green and yellow, it is okay. Anything that's amber and above needs actions, if that's.
So where I've seen the current risk is substantial as amber,
Yellow, I think, is called moderate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and green is,
But that doesn't mean it needs
Tolerable.
actions.
Okay,
Because
So-
the line underneath is the residual risk, which is tolerable.
so where it says compliance with, sorry, can I just use,
Yeah,
so that we know where
Yeah.
we're going with this. So for example, paragraph 3.2.2, cemetery safety, page 25.
Yeah.
So yeah, current risk is yellow, moderate, and then this residual risk, which I don't fully understand, but then in the words underneath, compliance with standard, no. Action required, cemetery safety,
you need a risk assessment.
it said, yeah, oh, okay, carry out an excavation risk assessment. So that's a risk assessment for,
That would be the gravedigger,
The gravedigger
who would have
do
to
that.
provide that for each and every,
okay,
which I have been asking for.
okay, so
Um,
that's fine.
But then we need a risk assessment for the cemetery.
So, to cover things like an open grave between excavation and burial? Okay.
So we need a risk assessment for.
And that would have to be also in the gravediggers, how he's going to cover
How
it.
is he going to protect that area that he's just worked on? Okay.
So risk assessment for the gravedigger and one for the council. Okay, so,
It's a lot of risk assessment.
yeah, so church and parish events. Not applicable, not applicable. Facilities.
So on page 26, again, that's risk assessment.
Brilliant.
For events,
Yes,
okay?
Pavilion needs one.
I suppose we'll get onto that, but,
we need a general one for the pavilion, and then
yeah. And one for events as well.
we do one for the council events. There is a risk assessment.
Yeah,
done.
because
Yeah.
Christmas Lights has one.
Yes, and so does the Remembrance Parade.
Right.
But something like mayor making. Just to do a quick one for that. And once you've got the templates, you just update them each year.
Okay.
Is mayor making a different risk from full council meeting in the?
Valid point, we should have one for council meetings.
Oh, okay.
We would need a risk assessment for every single thing, so it's going to be a huge folder of risk assessments.
Right.
You wouldn't have to redo the risk assessment for every single meeting,
No, sure.
but
Okay.
for events you would.
Am I right in thinking though there's templates on the portal to do these, isn't there?
I've not looked at it, I'd like to think.
I did ask him if he, the person who did the audit, whether he would do risk assessments, and he said yes, but I think it was £900
Yeah,
a day.
I was gonna say.
It wasn't cheap.
I have a feeling there's templates on the
Okay,
portal.
That can be downloaded or, okay.
And kept electronically as well.
Yeah. So, okay,
I'm on page 28, I don't know where everybody
Oh, right.
else is, but.
I'm on 32, but carry on.
Oh, well, I was just concerned by these yellow ones, but if councillor Forbes,
Well, that was my understanding of it.
it's just in the words, it says compliance with standard.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's minor, I suppose, compared to anything else.
okay,
I maybe think I've misunderstood, but
so cleaning safety systems at work, action required cleaning safety systems. Work developer safe systems of work for cleaning activities. That's kosh and things like that, is it not?
Yeah.
Yes, and we do have cost sheets in the pavilion for the cleaner. Because
Sorry, what's a kosh sheet?
what does
Control
cost?
of substances.
I know what kosh is, it was, what is a
The
kosh
sheet,
sheet?
the sheet is about the chemicals that are being used.
Chemicals and all that.
They have to have a printed copy of what,
Right.
of what we use and what we hold in the cleaner's cupboard to,
Okay,
so the
does the cleaner need kosh training?
is a what? No, but it has to be visual so the cleaner knows what she's using.
And she has to read it, make sure she reads it to make sure it complies with whatever
Haven't got them in the council office.
chemical she's
Maybe we
using.
should.
Because, so, yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the same way that you shouldn't use any products with bleaching, I think.
Somebody mentioned to me that every time you buy a new product, you replenish, it has to be the same brand because the kosh hazard is potentially different.
Yeah,
Different.
because
Don't
they
go
have
for-
different ingredients.
Yeah,
I don't-
different chemicals in different items.
Yeah,
If you buy them at Cash and Carry, you get the cost sheets.
oh do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cash and carry.
So the next one's page 30, which is contractors.
Thank you. Contract management.
So this is suggesting you have a preferred list of contractors that you know will be compliant with the standard.
Yes, and also having a booking in and out so we know who's on site,
Yeah.
and also a lanyard for contractors so that we know that they are there with permission of the council. To me, that's more for a bigger site, but it would make sense to put it
So
in
that they
place.
can identify themselves to members
Well,
of
so
the
that
public.
anybody who sees them knows that we're aware, because they could only have got that lanyard from the office.
Okay,
That does make sense. It's reassurance for the public. I've been approached a couple of times in the play areas, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily have a lanyard. I know we've had that conversation before as well, so,
You should have a lanyard, because I did them.
yeah. I obviously wasn't wearing it that day.
There are template risk assessments on the portal.
and that is obviously the route to take.
Download them, complete them.
I think this one that does highlight the usefulness of having preferred contractors.
Yes, definitely. So if we go on to page 31, I'm surprised we have so many no's for display screens.
Display screen.
That probably means that a display screen assessment has never been done.
About the orientation, the relationship with windows and reflections and assessing
Have
the
you ever done
workstation.
No, yeah,
So you've not had a workstation assessment?
No.
to make sure that, there's enough room for this, and typing as well.
Okay, well that definitely needs to be done.
You used to have to do them manually.
Sorry?
You used to have to do them manually, I may be wrong on that, but you used to have to.
And who would do that?
The individual,
As a self?
yeah, it's a self one,
Okay.
yeah. So any employee that's using,
So is
So
there
write it
a
down.
list of criteria you have to comply with on that portal as well?
with me,
Okay.
have a look.
It's having that written evidence as well.
Yeah,
Okay. That you have signed, you've done an assessment of your workstation, okay? Electrical safety. So,
I have, on these 3 unsatisfactory ones, I have gone back to Maybury Electrical, and they have sent me the satisfactory ones, and they are now in the health and safety file in the council office.
So we did have them, but we just didn't have the reports.
Yeah, the work had been done.
Yeah,
But the
yeah, I thought it
reports
had.
hadn't been sent.
This is the fixed wiring.
I remember the conversation about it.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, right, so these are, sorry, just check, Pavilion Council Office and Cemetery Building, where he's written unsatisfactory.
That was what was on the initial report we had done, and there was work to be done, which we authorised to be done, and was done, but we didn't get the completed satisfactory certificate.
Oh, okay. And now you have.
Now I have, and now it's filed.
Yeah, I had a feeling they had been done.
Yeah,
Certainly since.
So we can disregard this
I
paragraph.
remember this at the bottom of the
that
stairs
one
talking
has
about it.
been acted on, because if you remember, he put in a new something in the council offices,
It was in the unit.
and then we had the trunking done.
They moved it down, didn't they? The panel down as well, so it was,
No, that was for the alarm.
that was the alarm, yeah.
The alarm was moved down so that somebody who's in a wheelchair could
Can reach
activate
it.
the alarm.
Yeah.
So we've already jumped into fire safety overview, haven't we, on page 34? I started reading that without sources of ignition, etc.
To me, page 33 slightly contradicts the fire risk assessment, which was done by a different company. Just bear it in mind.
So
Okay.
page 33, then.
33 says the electrical switchgear areas were free from storage of combustible materials, and access to the switchgear was free of obstructions. All electric cupboards and switch rooms were observed to be secured to prevent unauthorised access. Okay?
So that's just pertains to the council office, because it's not the case for the pavilion. Is that what you were alluding to, Clark?
This is the council office. No, in one of the fire risk assessments, it said that, and I thought that was the council office, that there were combustible materials stored.
Okay, maybe we'll come to that then, I guess.
So done 34.
Right, yeah, 34, compliance with standard for combustible materials, etc. failed, but a specific fire risk assessment has been carried out. That's 2021.
Yeah, there was fire risk assessment done in 2021 on pavilion. I think I put the link on there, but then of course we've had another one done just now, so.
And the fire service certificate had been done, but again, we hadn't been sent the certificate.
Do we have it now?
Yes.
So am I right in thinking if we've got fire risk issues on this general health and safety one, we've already addressed those by having the audits been completed? In terms of reviewing, now we look at the fire risk audits themselves to
Yeah,
have the definitive next step.
yes.
So this is slightly redundant, going through pages of this.
Yes and no, you might have picked up something that
Okay.
someone else hasn't. The fire safety overview, the signage, there was an issue with signage at the pavilion.
Yeah, signs on doors,
Yeah,
or lack of.
For fire exits,
Fire
no
doors.
fire
oh,
doors.
fire doors, right?
But I guess we'll get to that in a minute, won't we, so.
That's on the other.
That'll be the
report,
other
isn't it?
audit, won't it?
Yeah. Emergency lighting, that was on the other one as well.
Oh, there's one here, sorry, I don't know if I'm jumping around, but it just springs to mind. In the council office, the fire alarm is only audible rather than
Visual.
any visual alarm system?
I think that came up in the fire risk assessment.
As well, right,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think it does for the pavilion as well, actually.
Yeah.
For both.
We should have a flashing light system
Yeah.
so that if you're hard of hearing, well,
Yeah.
maybe a bit more than hard of hearing, because that's quite a loud bell, but, so they know the alarm's going off.
Fire drills was picked up in the other one as well, wasn't it? Seem to remember.
Well, do we test it weekly? Oh, it says the fire alarm is tested weekly, is that a,
Fortnightly. Bi-weekly, I thought it said. Bi-weekly fire checks,
But it's fire drills that
which we've never done.
need to be completed
So we need to do a fire drill,
once every 12 months.
and we need to have a plan in place so that people know where to
Meeting point
evacuate to.
and stuff, yeah.
For all buildings. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
mentioned again in
In
the
the fire
other
risk
report,
yeah.
yeah.
so sorry on, this might come up again, but it says here on paragraph 3.2.8.3, the fire alarm is tested at weekly intervals. Is that true?
No, it's bi-weekly.
Okay, so he's recorded that incorrectly, but it is tested fortnightly then? From a different call point by in-house personnel. I know they do that here, they test, you know, the red boxes,
Yeah.
they use a different one each week to test it. I assume that's what this is meant, so I was just checking with
that's
Claire,
what
that does in fact happen.
It does,
It does say every other week. Building council offices are tested every
yeah,
other
but
week.
above it, it says,
Oh, weekly, yeah,
Weekly.
yeah. Mhm.
but I did notice some errors in here, so. So do you want to look in, or are you going to delay the flashing, the hard of hearing part of it?
The
Well, we're
audio,
not-
the visual alarm?
Yeah, do you
Will we
want,
not pick that up in the fire risk assessment?
that's fine, if you,
Because that's got quite useful action tables.
That's what I was thinking of earlier.
Yeah.
It's that one that's got the table at the bottom, isn't it?
Well, the whole series of.
Yeah.
Fire safety signage.
Gas safety.
Yeah, I'm on the same page too.
we have the gas certificate.
Okay,
It was just, I didn't have a fancy file to put it all in. I now have a fancy file to put it all in, and it's all recorded. But we have
Okay.
health
so
and
we only
safety
have
file.
gas in the council office.
And that was done by a gas
Safety.
safe
Yeah.
registered contractor.
Okay. And so, Janella, I'd say we just pick up with the really detailed
Yeah, mentioned again, isn't it? Yeah.
lean work.
We've glossed over first aid obviously because it's all green, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do need to get a new first aid kit because of the contents, but he did say the little one we had,
In the office.
yeah, the very small one, because we've got a big case in the office, and we've got a little one in the office. The little one is fine.
Because of the number of employees, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you replenish the items as they go out of date?
Well, that's what I need to do.
Items go out of date, don't they? And also, do we have an accident book?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pinned up on the wall.
I don't think lone work was picked up in any of the other ones. was it?
No.
No, I don't think it
Do we need to have a lone worker policy?
We've got one.
Yeah, we've got
That's what I
one.
thought we did, so I was saying it.
It says there is a lone worker policy.
No check in place for lone working at council offices and the pavilion. No, there is no check in place. What does that mean by that?
So if any one of us, or Claire, goes to the pavilion on her own, or is in the council office on her own, there's nothing in place.
Or if I fell down the stairs,
Yeah, whereas the cleaner
coming
does
from the attic.
have something in place when she goes to the pavilion.
What sort of things
So it's like, Claire would ring one of us or text one of us or something to say, I'm leaving now. If she's been in the office on her own or at the pavilion on her own. And of course there are times when both of those happen.
Because I did look at the lone worker policy, and it does say that the cleaning lady tells people where she is and stuff like that, but I think it was specific to that. There wasn't much information about Claire in the office on her own, but I don't know what the solution is to that.
If I have to pop out, I normally email someone to say that I'm popping out and where I'm going and why.
The only thing I would say about that is we might not see it straight away. That's,
We're more likely to see WhatsApp.
yeah, I would say pop a message, yeah.
Because that's going to go to all.
Councillors, and somebody will pick it up, one of us.
Well, at least we'd see it if, yeah. But then you see that would, I mean, now that we've got WhatsApp and in line with the potential risks of lone working, and I do appreciate you've been in there on their own for years,
Yeah.
I get it. But as a responsible employer, I think maybe we should do more to know when Claire's in on and when she's not. I guess sometimes Harvey and Snowden are that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is more for when
I mean, this is more to
Harvey
do
and
about,
Snowden, aren't there?
I would say as well, for a lone worker, it's more not so much in the day, because obviously people do work on their own, but especially if she's working overtime, for example, in the evening, when no one's around, that's when definitely needs to be identifying and saying to people, by the way, I'm working here on my own, and it's 9 o'clock at night, for example, you definitely, that's should be.
Yeah.
And even when we do
Or
it,
weekend, say if you're working a Saturday, you know, for example, a Saturday morning, when we would think there's nobody in there because of a fire.
and we do have, like when we have meetings in the council offices, you're going to put everything away in the office and we all trot off and leave you to look up. Actually, probably one of us should stay with you.
I'm often asked if I'm all right.
Yeah, but but actually, we should just ask, we should do it.
But that's why when I'm in the office on my own,
We lock the front
whether
door.
it's day or night, that front door is locked.
Mm.
Because I can't hear someone coming in.
And going upstairs.
Yeah, I understand that, but there's also, sorry to talk about you like you're not in the room, but say for example, like you say, you fell down the stairs or you were taken ill or the ceiling fell in, you know, you may not be in a position to make a phone call. I
And
just
if
think,
it's all locked up, if it's all, Claire locks it all up, how are they going to get in?
No, but
well, I
that's
think
what we're
that's a
saying.
problem for the firemen.
If
I
we
think.
haven't heard
Well,
by,
councillors have keys.
I don't know, by
So,
4
yes.
o'clock that she's gone home, then we start thinking,
My
well, actually,
suggestion
you better
would,
just check, you know,
yeah,
isn't it? And then one of us that has got keys, if needs be, can try and get that.
does the lone worker policy, generally speaking, allow for Claire to use her own direction on informing people when she's there on her own? Does that make sense?
It does, and I don't know the answer to that without looking at it.
does Claire have to inform somebody of the council, or is it okay to
Sorry.
inform John, for example?
Just that's the end of that, just Claire, sorry.
Can Claire contact a family member rather than
I
having to
suspect so,
contact the
I don't know.
When we used
Just
to
that's
use
what
a
we do with the cleaner.
lone worker policy at work, it could be a colleague or a, you know, person that you live with,
Okay.
for example, so yeah, it could be.
Should we just for now minute the fact that we just need to iron out that
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
detail?
And look into actually what is in the lone worker policy,
Yeah.
isn't it? Is it still fit, you know, or do we need
Still
to
fit
add
for
something
yeah.
else into it?
Yeah.
Quite a lot of policy, actually.
Sorry?
I said it's quite a lot of policy actually.
It's a big document.
Yeah.
Is that the one where you have to take a look at a map? Take a map.
Yes, yeah,
Always made me smile, that one.
flow chart, yeah.
Make sure there's enough petrol in the car.
thank you.
So the next one is substantial management of health and safety. Policy review and update the health and safety policy. Okay, so we've got the health and safety policy to look at in a minute, haven't we? So
Yeah.
maybe that's what.
I mean, our current health and safety statement rather than the policy is quite brief. But it was put in place because we had to have one.
Yeah. So I'm guessing the review of our health, yeah, maybe these paragraphs then we don't need to take apart now because they'll come in later when we look at the health and safety policy,
The manual, yeah.
the manual.
Okay. Anything else that flags up from? Workplace transport.
Manual handling comes under health and safety policy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Somewhere as
I
well.
think part
Yeah.
of the,
Waste management, does that come under? Health and safety, or the other document, I can't remember. Page 48.
We missed out 47.
I was just looking at that, but I wondered if that's included in health and safety. Passenger and goods lifts.
Was this not?
Um, Is he referring to the stair lift?
That's the only lift we've got.
Passenger goods.
That one from the attic no longer works.
No.
Can you suspend standing orders, please?
Okay, so
Hang on, can we suspend standing orders?
suspend standing orders. Councillor Harrison?
I just got a question. Given at the start of this meeting, Chair, you said that the council have had since December to review these documents. There seems to be a lot of time being spent on going through the minutiae and not focusing on the critical actions. And given the amount of time that's passed and the amount of time remaining and the use of the public's time, surely it would be worthwhile focusing on critical actions and making sure the public are aware of them.
I would agree that we already have sort of action points defined in the other audits. I just didn't want to miss anything in this particular section, like we have picked up one element.
Pardon me, that we have paid a contractor to do this assessment, right? So surely there was trust put in that contractor to provide actions that need to be taken. And it's not the purpose of this meeting, rather than being policy review, effectively, to go and focus on the action.
Yeah, I agree we should be moving on to the action points in the audits that follow now. So I'm happy to conclude this particular section and move on to the risk assessments. Okay, we're still open.
Yeah, could I?
Yes?
You said that the councillors had the audits since December. Now, when I put my FOI in, I was told that I wasn't giving the reports because the councillors hadn't seen them, and they wouldn't, that's why I wasn't allowed to have the accounts. So obviously the councillors had seen them in December. Then the FOI refusal, you know.
That was probably an error on my part, I'm sorry. The town council had the reports, but I'm not.
No, it's, the reason the FOI was rejected was because the council hadn't considered the reports. And that is what it is doing tonight. The council is meeting to consider these reports. The councillors had access to read the reports beforehand, but they had not met as a town council.
Can you remember when we had access to read them? Was that before Christmas?
Oh yes,
Oh, right, sorry.
you had them before E&A because they were on the E&A agenda.
Right, okay.
So
So
But
at
it
that
was the
E&A
council.
meeting, that was when this this meeting was proposed for it to be reviewed by full council rather than
Yep.
E&A. Yeah. Does that help?
Okay, I'll have a look at the email, at the wording, and I will get back to you.
Okay. So I'll reinstate standing orders and suggest we move on to the fire risk assessment audits for the individual buildings. So I'll start with council offices.
This is one.
And what I would like to do is I'd like to just go straight down to the action points at the end of this document. I believe the assessors have done a pretty thorough job and have now put forward actions they are recommending with their priorities. And quite clearly, if we have a priority which is high, then we should be definitely addressing that as soon as possible. So could we work down through the priorities as listed from page 30 onwards?
Can I just double check, this is the fire risk assessment for the council office?
Correct?
Thank you.
Yes. And the first red highlight is for keep all escape routes clear of storage and obstructions, check escape routes daily. So clearly there was a problem with passage, and I'm not quite sure what part of the office were they condemning there, going through.
The only part I can think of is the cupboard, no, not the cupboard, the stairs going up into the attic. Because if no one's up there, sometimes there might be a chair in front of the door, but if someone is going up there, the chair is moved because you have to move it to open the door.
It does say obstructions within first floor office space preventing swift ingress from second floor.
Okay, you're looking at the detailed section.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what it was.
I think
Yeah.
swift egress from the upper floor, you'd probably fall down the
Stairs, so yeah.
more than a little dangerous, those stairs.
And
Sorry, could you just double check what page number we're on, sorry?
I'm on page 31 because I'm in the action points,
Right, yeah, fine,
The action
Yeah.
points at the bottom, yeah.
which are at the bottom.
It would be useful if they put their page numbers on them.
Do you agree?
Is it on the right hand side here?
It's okay, carry on,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay, so the next reference, which has had a high risk, was breaches in fire compartment walls, floors and ceilings in the council offices.
There's something that goes through the floor, isn't there? I don't know what it is, without going, there's something that goes through the floor which obviously hasn't had a fire seal put around it, but I don't know what that is.
Compartmentation, put my teeth in. Deficiencies noted in switchboard cupboard. Deficiencies require further inspection with remedial works completed by a competent and qualified person.
Okay, so this is
So
in
that's
the
it.
entrance lobby.
The electric cupboard.
Okay, then that definitely needs to be a priority.
I think that's it on that.
Yeah, I just see the a picture at the bottom there of the possible obstruction of the fire exit from first floor, second floor. Okay, so in the offices, there's the making sure fire exits are clear and also making sure the compartmentalisation of areas is complete and not allowing fire to spread from, in this case, the electrical cupboard, which is probably a quite high risk area, so that definitely needs to be addressed. Could we now move on to public toilets?
Oh, I see, we just did the red ones. Oh, okay.
Please flag if you're concerned about.
No, may I make a suggestion that whilst we deal with the highest priorities in this meeting, I understand that, perhaps at some point
We go back down the,
you revisit,
yes,
eh,
yeah, good plan.
if we make a note of that, we need to put a person's name on that. I guess it'd be the proper officer to go through them and check, because they still need actions, or they're just less urgent. So should we put the clerk's name against that to be done within a time limit? That your suggestion,
Would we
Mr.
do
Mayor?
that for the whole suite? Rather
Oh,
than
yeah,
just
I
in
think
the
so.
I
pick-
think we do it at the end,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
so we
just-
do a, when the red actions have got to be completed by, and then anything else when that's got.
Yeah, just
completed by.
because, sorry, just to clarify, because we're not talking about the orange ones now, which I understand.
Yeah.
But I think the minutes should reflect a deadline.
Yeah.
And by whom the less priorities will be dealt with.
But I think we'll do that as a global statement at the end of.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. So for the public toilet, I didn't think there was much could catch on fire now. Breaches in fire compartment walls, floors and ceilings must be repaired with fire resistant composite. And I know exactly what this is, and that's a hole in the ceiling space of the gents toilet. And that's been there a while, and we'll need replasterboarding, even just in a temporary measure, to make sure that compartment is closed off, because obviously you've got wooden joists in that space which are a fire risk if anybody gets ideas to try and set that on fire. So that is the only one in the toilets.
So should we label that as an action?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that potentially something for Paula?
Yeah,
Because she's looking after properties at the moment.
If she can, that would be great.
yeah.
It's
Just
not good
again,
action line for Paula.
Just that one.
yeah.
So
So
far,
just-
there may be others.
Well, no, because you'd have the same thing in the council offices.
Just the toilets, I think you're talking about, aren't
I
you?
was
It's a
talking about
repair,
toilets, sorry.
it needs
Yeah.
ceiling needs redoing.
You didn't want to get the same contractor to look at the
Electric.
electric cupboard.
Oh, yes,
You know, if it's just plasterboard and filling in
I
the
didn't think to
toilet.
make this comment at the time, sorry, yes.
yeah.
Thank you, Paul, yes, both.
Next just said there's another one on the toilets about unsatisfactory linings can promote the spread and development of fire. Consideration should be given to the adequacy of fire stopping and the
Flammability.
thank you, of linings. So that's the one to go with the hole in the ceiling, isn't it? Do it all at the same time.
Yeah,
Or is
so
that
it's-
just the linings though? I've closed it now, sorry.
Yeah. So it's the same,
Was that a red?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, there were 2 red toilets,
I guess that's one for Paula to look at, yeah.
kind of linked to each other at the
Sure,
same time.
okay, so we'll move on to the cemetery. Okay, first one I've got on page 27. Keep all escape routes clear of storage and obstructions. Check escape routes daily. I think that would be unlikely in the cemetery.
I think maybe check before a funeral. Oh, if I'd earlier up there.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, that area up there
Needs
could just be sorted out and cleared out and would correct that one straight away.
Yeah, and that is on the agenda.
So clear of the rubbish out of
Is
the
that
way.
under Paula's?
Yeah, it's on next week's E&A, I think.
Okay, so that's an action
And
that's due to be completed.
It is something, it's already on her radar.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
It's been on radar for,
Because you go up
Quite a
there
long
and
time.
yeah, it's just,
it's terrible.
yeah.
So when they've said here in the next item, fire extinguishers should be positioned on all escape routes, are we suggesting the escape route we need to consider is from the inner area that our contractors use out past the toilet? Or are you talking from all the storage areas? Or do we have to try and do something with escape routes from the undercroft or?
Well, it just says in the grounds room storing.
Okay,
So that's the back room.
at the back room.
Yeah.
So basically that area, all right, so maybe Paula could see whether there was a way of maybe putting the cones, for example, that are in that corridor to the back room in the storage area rather than,
Right,
you see what I mean?
I suspect once the all
Other
this
areas
stuff
are
in there is
cleared
being audited and cleared as titled as appropriate, there will be a better place to store them where they don't cause an obstruction for sure, yeah. Is that what you?
That's what I was proposing, that at the moment you go in there and you've got plastic cones, flammable plastic cones and stuff before you get into the back room.
Yeah.
So that is a hazard to people if a fire.
They have to
No
go
other
past the
way out
fire
of
to
that
get out,
back room
yes,
other than
yes,
come
yes,
past that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think perhaps when that work is underway, we'll draw Paula's
Much
attention
better.
to this and, yeah.
Okay. Is that it for the two? I think so.
Yeah.
Fire should be positioned in all escape routes. There's three in them, one of those.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Go on.
Are there is there a fire extinguisher in the cemetery?
Sure, we should just say the same
I
thing.
was also thinking the same thing.
Is there one in the,
Is there a fire extinguisher in the cemetery?
Mr. Matthews?
It's not
I don't
checked.
think so.
If there is, it's not been
No.
checked.
Then that needs to be addressed, I think.
If there is, it's potentially
Is there, no,
hazardous.
is there one in the chapel? Sorry.
Sure, there's only needs for one up there, doesn't it?
Well, there's
well,
a
the
few
key-
different locked parts of it, that's the trouble. It's not one big.
And you need different
Obviously, the
extinguishers.
chapel is for public access, isn't it? And the back room is for contractor access, so we've got to protect both. But would you need a fire extinguisher to get out of the chapel? Could do.
I think if you potentially got quite a few people in there,
Yeah.
Bearing in mind the wooden doors, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so we definitely need to look at the fire extinguisher provision at the cemetery, that has to be.
And you're going to need a variant for water and a variant for electricity clearly as well, so it's foam and water.
And if I speak to Evotech, who did our last
Yeah.
fire extinguisher check,
Yeah.
Have they done one up there, or have they just done it at the council?
no, they did one at the pavilion and at the council offices.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
do
they
That's
that.
what
can
I'm
do the
saying, if
same
we
at
have
the-
got some, they haven't been checked.
You know, irrespective of all the tidying up, I think those provisions have to be there. And whether you go to a split or just go for a foam or a powder, so that it's one fire extinguisher, you don't have to worry about what you're.
Can I just ask, sorry,
Fire alarm, have we got a fire alarm up there?
Nope, I don't think so.
No.
I'm surprised that wasn't.
Fire alarm at the cemetery?
No, I didn't think there
No.
was.
can I
Just
just
a
ask a
security
quick?
alarm. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry to go back, the fire extinguishers at the council office, was a couple of them out of date that need replacing? I'm sure I read on one of these,
Yes, but that's been done, that work has been done.
they've been replaced.
I can't remember
I've
off the
read
top
that
of my
somewhere
head.
as well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't remember whether,
Because we paid.
there was an issue,
They've
and
been
without
done.
the facts in front of me, I can't say what that issue was, but I know there was an issue and I flagged it with them, and I chased and chased and chased for the answer, and eventually I got it. I can share it with you, but not at this moment in time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Was
thought I
that-
read that two
Sure.
extinguishers were out of date.
But they came in and they did all the
I-
remedial work
They've been done
required.
since the audit, I'm sure.
Oh,
I've read
right.
it somewhere
Yeah.
on an email
Could we
or
just note
something.
perhaps to satisfy yourself that's all in
Yeah.
order, I think that's all.
Because I contacted them,
Okay.
because I didn't have the certificates.
Perhaps you could let us know
I
that
do,
you,
yeah. There is another red on the cemetery, which is, it is recommended that audible alarm systems be installed.
fire alarm systems.
thought that was necessary because it's reused.
Well,
That's, would that be Evotech again?
Is that really necessary?
I didn't catch that.
Well, could we seek their advice as to whether they thought it was
Yeah,
appropriate?
agreed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they must be putting these things on a regular basis and.
I mean, they will want to sell you one, so they've got to be a bit careful.
Okay, I think
So
that's
quite
the
an expensive
cemetery.
one for the pavilion.
So we'll do the pavilion. Pavilion.
Pavilion concerned me slightly because there was some outstanding actions from the last audit in 2022.
Well, I suppose all we can say now is we must implement whatever's been picked up in this audit and get on with it.
Okay.
So again, minimise the likelihood of ignition of combustible materials. Where are they?
boiler cupboard,
Okay,
and that
you
is,
mean
yeah,
the
they are the one,
tank cupboard?
yes,
Yeah,
Right.
the water tank cupboard.
yeah.
What
There-
about
There
it?
is no boiler.
No, it's what is written there. But yeah, there is stuff in there.
Okay, so is there sufficient space to store whatever was being put in that cupboard somewhere else?
Well, there's a broom, a garden hoe, a box of light bulbs, cuddly,
Generation game.
yeah, yeah, those
In
sorts
the
of
tank
things.
cupboard?
In with the two tall, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. And also the cupboard's not locked, which it should be. But the thing is you can't because the control panel's on the inside. It's a bit of a,
It could only be locked if you had a key on the master key set.
which I
Okay.
couldn't find, but I might be wrong, I was there today having a go with it. I might have not got that right, but I couldn't seem to find them. But the trouble is the control panel's on the inside, and I understand the people using the showers need to get to that control panel.
Yes,
So
you have to turn.
Yeah,
And does it also say, sorry, about the type of material you use to contain it? So do we use a steel locker type thing, does it, rather than a wooden? If you read there, on the first one, careful consideration towards the type of material, the quantities kept and the storage arrangements can significantly reduce the risk.
Because certainly the cleaner's cupboard is a metallic
Yeah.
cupboard, and I would have thought if we've got combustible materials
Yeah,
anywhere
so you get
else,
hot up
you
in
should
there.
get another metallic cupboard in that area.
I don't know if we've got anything knocking around in all the storage.
okay, so,
I mean, it has been raised and it was discussed before I started at Wilton about making a cupboard specific, because the cleaners' chemicals are kept in the referees and you haven't actually got a cleaner's cupboard.
no,
Where could we put a cleaner's cupboard then? We're going off on a bit of a tangent here, aren't we?
Well, I think we have to just agree we need to
Look at
resolve
doing that,
cupboard
yeah.
provision to store combustible materials, and we have to find a space for it.
As long as if it can, you know, if it fits, as long as it doesn't affect the fire exits, and if it's in the hallways, as long as there's room, it doesn't obstruct movement. I think it's just got to be realistic where we put it, or does it go in one of the change rooms? I mean, we can make that decision. Or space. I don't want a kitchen board. It's only perfume in it.
you could stay in that room, couldn't
The
you?
ref's room, there is enough room to
Yeah.
build a proper cupboard, so where the cleaner's cupboard is at the moment,
Yeah.
against that wall.
Well, you could have a metal cupboard in there, couldn't it?
Or we could buy a bigger metal cupboard,
Fireproof metal
Or
cupboard.
probably,
because there is more, a different, yeah,
And
like
different
a
cupboards.
wardrobe almost, isn't it?
Keep all the combustibles in there.
So you can have one key for the
This one,
cleaner
next week's agenda.
and one key for whoever, and
Yeah.
you can buy these big.
And that also incorporates.
That's got those
I shouldn't
compartments,
know.
can't
And
you?
they'd be fireproof.
I don't know, I need to
Yeah.
think about that.
or
that
you
would
can buy
be-
separate
You let
units.
Or you can buy
inspect
two
it.
I think there's going to be more
Independent,
to
no,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that would incorporate the next one, saying good housekeeping. 'cause
Yes.
then
But there is-
be- placed away correctly in different areas, not crammed in. So designated materials for designated areas.
So that, the concept of storage of cleaning materials needs to be looked at as a,
In
yeah,
conjunction with the sorting of, storage of combustible materials.
yeah.
And both should be a metal cabinet, so.
Yeah, we're not going to decide on that
Definitely metal cabinet.
tonight,
No,
what that
no,
looks
but
like, but
that is definitely the.
it needs to be
It's an
addressed.
And
Yeah.
be addressed where it's going to be.
But coming back to the boiler room, boiler cupboard, it concerned me that, I think it says somewhere here that it needs to be, it ought to be locked, however, am I right, they need to use that control panel for the showers, don't they, because the instructions are stuck
Yeah,
on
there
the
are 4
panel.
separate control panels in there.
Yeah, so, and there are clear instructions, so that's great. But I suppose in theory, we need to decide whether or not to move the control panel out so you keep the cupboard locked. But then I don't know really the risk of the cupboard not being locked.
Where have you seen it needs to be locked? Is it in one of these reports?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Yeah, no, I don't remember seeing it, I'm not saying.
Locked or just kept shut?
Just kept shut.
I thought it needed to be locked.
I mean, that's
Okay, shall we?
Yeah, I mean,
Could you put a question mark by that one?
Yeah.
Paul,
Well, I was
please?
going to say, does it need to be locked because it's used to store combustible materials?
Yeah.
If you take them out of there and put them in the cupboard in the refs thing, it may no longer need to be locked.
I don't think, right,
See what I
Good
mean?
point, good point.
Possibly.
Could it be locked with the key on a hook on the wall?
well, I think Paul's suggesting that if there's no combustible materials in
Then
there,
it
then
needs to be locked then.
well, the
With
inspector
regard to-
wouldn't have seen combustible materials in there. I need to check,
why not?
Did you take it in a
It wasn't
picture?
locked, was it? There's a picture of the,
I think the picture's about the combustible materials, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
But the picture, what's that on the floor? Is that,
that's a pump.
okay,
It's fluffy.
so what's combustible in that?
Well,
You reckon what, the boiler room or the first one or the
The
second
hot
one? Then?
water tanks?
There's a broom.
there was a box of light bulbs
There's a broom
today?
leaning up against the right-hand tank.
Yeah, and there was a garden hose.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, there is a broom.
Okay.
It's kind of, you
It's
don't
just
notice
trivial
it
things,
to begin
but
with.
Yeah,
they
it's
need to be.
spotful.
Is that roll of bin bags at the bottom?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
So just remove all that.
No, that's a pump.
Oh, is it a
Black
pump, that
things,
black
pump,
thing?
Yeah.
I'm enlarging. Well, is that a job for PJ to look at quotes for lockers or at least look into it?
Well, just storage cabinet, metal storage cabinets, yeah. But
Absolutely.
maybe you need to check just what space we're supposed to provide for the referee's changing area. If we fill the whole of the referee's room with storage cupboards. Okay, has that completed fire risk?
There's one more said about
Bin,
I don't know what look.
bin obstructing the
Yeah,
corridor.
it's
Now I know exactly what that.
You can see it in the picture.
You can see it in the
Yeah.
picture,
Yeah.
it's by the fire exit. at the
But
fire
today
end.
there was a hygiene bin there as well,
So
next to it.
when I went
What,
in,
in the corridor?
yeah, when I went in the other weekend, the toilet in the corridor, so you come in the front door and you go down the corridor, the toilet that's on its own on the right hand side, not the one
Yeah.
that's set back a bit. The hygiene bin for that toilet doesn't fit in the toilet.
No.
Because the toilet's quite narrow, the room, and the hygiene bin is a big square one.
Yeah.
Now normally,
Because it's a nappy one, because it's
Oh.
multi-use,
so normally they're the thin narrow ones that slide down the side of the toilet,
It
like,
wouldn't,
Like in the public toilets.
like in the public toilet. So I'm wondering if we could go back to PHS
PHS.
and ask them if they could swap that one out
For two.
for one small one to
Okay.
fit down the side of the toilet, and we have the nappy bin in the disabled
Disabled one.
toilet.
I think there's one there already.
Yes, there is,
Yeah.
yes, but they've all the facilities in the toilets in the pavilion have got the square bins.
Yeah, because they're unisex.
Yeah, but I think in that toilet, we need the narrow one.
So yeah.
And in the changing rooms as well, because the big square bins don't fit in the changing room toilets either, and they're on the
Yeah.
floor in the actual changing area, not in
No,
the
they were
toilet.
behind the door in the toilets today.
But they weren't when I went.
Oh, so I agree with everything you've just said, but today the bins, the hygiene bins were in the toilets within the changing rooms, but behind the doors. They don't fit beside the toilet, but they do fit behind the doors. So they are in the enclosed area of the toilet facility, if that makes sense. All the restrooms got one, the accessible toilets got one. The two places that haven't got them are the narrower
The two
toilets.
single toilets.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Because the big bins don't fit. Now, and there's a surplus big bin by the back door with the bin photographed.
Right.
So it's my suggestion, can we exchange that surplus bin for two narrow bins to go in the two toilets? And I think then would be sorted.
So is this a bit of education that's needed for PHS then? If they're just going in there and putting the bins wherever they
Well, I
can,
suspect they were probably told, and quite rightly, they use sex toilets, so that's why they provided the big bins. So
Okay.
because they're nappy bins as well, but they obviously didn't really look at it when they went and delivered them, and they just put them in, because actually it's more unhygienic to have them in the corridor than it is in the toilet.
Can I ask, do you know if there's a baby changing table in the disabled?
Oh, is there one of those fall down ones?
Can't remember, I don't want to
No,
answer that.
Okay.
I don't think there is.
No, I don't think there
So
is.
you wouldn't designate the disabled toilet as
Well, you
being the
make
nappy changing
a very
area?
good point that
And
the
then you don't-
It's adult nappies, not.
Fair enough. Yeah,
both.
yeah, okay.
I mean, a lot of this and this is straightforward, just tidy housekeeping.
Tidy
Yes.
housekeeping.
Is a key word for this, and one of them just below says about no foam furniture. I mean, I haven't seen what foam or what is the furniture there. It says not registered with fireproofing. Is the one below? Have I read that wrong?
There's no foam furniture in there.
That's what it's got here. So when you got the, we just talked about the combustibles. Then it says about the boiler. Then it's one below. Well, I'm registering different.
Are you on the, yeah, you must be on the
On the
pavilion.
detailed one, yeah.
Can I just go back to the bin in the corridor? Sorry.
Yeah.
That, it's a big dustbin, that one in the corridor, isn't it?
Yeah, and now a PHS bin.
Yeah, and that bin that's in the corridor is the one that our home team use in their changing rooms to put their rubbish in at the end of the game.
So it should stay in the change.
So when I went in, I had it up on the bench whilst I was doing the floor. So therefore it's not obstructing anything, and obviously when they're in there they have it on the floor. Or it gets emptied and goes back in the kitchen under the worktop
Yeah.
when they're not there using it. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. Okay.
They only need that bin
So it
when
just
we've
needs
got
a
home game.
little bit of management of bin
Of either
placing.
them or the cleaner that goes in to clean
Just
after
puts
the
it somewhere.
football club puts it somewhere else. That's all it is. Back to Mick's point about housekeeping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mick, I'll
No,
stop
it's
talking about foam furniture. So.
Is there another bin in the kitchen?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's another 2 bins in the
There's-
kitchen.
There's ordinary sort of waste bins in the kitchen, but we now have these extras from the hygiene, which are everywhere.
No, I'm talking about the big black bin.
I think that the club may have bought their own bin to keep in their home
That's what it is.
changing rooms.
Just wondering whether they need 2 smaller bins, one in each changing room.
Yeah,
All down to
possibly.
housekeeping in a house,
Yeah.
really. Everything is
Just-
down to housekeeping.
A couple of those square, like flip top bins, you know. I'm
Right,
talking
I think-
but you know what I
It
mean.
won't last 2 minutes.
Well,
This has a sort of simple solution, which is just getting the right bin, the right size bin, and advising the users on where they should be located. Well, and also asking the cleaner to make sure the bins are
not left.
left in corridors.
And going back to PHS and seeing if we could swap out a couple of the hygiene bins so they
Yeah.
fit in the smaller toilet.
Are we finished that section? There's 2 more to go, yeah?
yeah.
So we'll move on to Legionella risk assessment, and that's...
Oh, no, sorry, you're talking about fire. So, the logbook, I think this is quite a,
With a high risk 5 years.
there should be a red logbook, you'll find here, there's a lock cabinet in the hallway with inside, do you know those red logbooks?
We've got one at council offices, one at the pavilion.
Okay, well, there's one at the pavilion now, whereabouts is that? Anyone know?
Is it not one of the drawers in the
Yeah, sure, it's in the kitchen.
In a kitchen drawer?
I think so.
Okay, right, my feedback to that would be that
It needs to be more obvious.
it needs to be obvious to people, because people, I think it can be in a locked cabinet, but visiting inspectors of various types, and also it's a log, I mean, that should be used every week by the person doing the, that should be used whenever testing is done. Legionella, fire alarm,
So it's a
intruder
tested,
alarm.
it's a general log rather.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the sort of overriding reason for it is fire risk and fire related. You can use it for your Legionella as well, and your emergency lighting. I don't know if we have emergency lighting, but all of those things. It's a logbook for alarm testing and associated.
Yeah. So that, like you see on public toilet areas where some of the cleaner's been in, but it's more,
Yes,
like,
but
more like a diary that you'd put in what was done each.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing of it is, people fill it out while they're there, rather than thinking I'll do that when I get home or back to the office or whatever, and it gets forgotten.
Yeah.
But it is quite important, because also if there was some kind of incident, whether it's a fire or
You've got a record that.
whatever, you need to be able to get to that record straight away. I mean, it may also, in the 21st century, be kept online as well, but I think it's quite important. I didn't realise it was in a kitchen drawer, I didn't go to look there.
Are you sure we actually need a paper copy? I thought it could all be kept online.
Well, if that's the case, great. Great.
How do you
Just think if
fill
there
that
was a
in?
fire there, you'd probably lose the paper record.
Well, like I say, it's in a locked thing. I'll show you this one when we go, but it's in a locked thing. But
So you
people,
can fill in something digitally. Are we talking like on your smartphone or whatever? You just.
No, it's probably on the portal.
Right.
But
It's a
you
device.
can put in the date fire alarm's been tested, the date Legionella's been done, the date, you know, so it's all electronic.
But is that when you've got back to the office or back to?
You do it back when you get back to the office. Do it on the same day that you've done it. You
Okay.
don't have to do it in situ.
yeah, one of the
You
reasons
could
the book is kept in situ is so that is done in situ. And
But you don't have to now.
You don't have to, no?
But I get what you're saying, so it doesn't.
But what you're saying is, get us right now, we want a generic one, so it's not just, so it covers the fire, the legionnaires and. So
If I still
don't
had
use
keys
the
for this
generic.
place, I'd show you this one.
Yeah.
If you, I get keeping it online, I think that's a brilliant, if the law allows us to do that, great. Yeah, great. And there's also fire door keep shut signage needed here,
Yes. True.
which I think is quite a priority.
Yeah. That's
Um,
quite straightforward. By the label that stick on doors and.
Paul's writing that down, brilliant.
Wasn't there some low-level lighting or something that was needed as well? Or emergency lighting?
In the pavilion.
There was loss of power. I'm sure I read that somewhere.
That's why I said, do we have any emergency lighting system in there? I've never heard it referred to, but I don't know. And it would seem odd if we don't have any emergency lighting, but that's a whole project for.
Yeah.
Well,
Can we put a note in to investigate emergency lighting? The new
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
I think would be a good idea.
Well, in all properties that we have.
I think they were medium actions, weren't they? They were red actions.
Oh, in that case, they'll
Yeah,
come up in
so
due
that-
course, right?
Yeah, sorry, I
Um,
threw in a curveball there, I didn't mean to.
And my only other question was, because
in here, is there any emergency lighting?
yes, there is,
there is,
yes, I
yeah.
used to
There
test
is,
it every month, yeah.
Yeah, one over there, yeah.
This is a question perhaps for Claire, sorry. When this was done in 22, they talked about a new sensor, smoke detector in the ceiling between the back door and the change rooms in that area. Now, there is one there now, but I can't tell if that's the one this guy was recommending. Can you remember that work being done?
Fire alarm, we had a complete new fire alarm.
The smoke,
Yeah.
smoke
Smoke
sensor. So that one would have been as a result. Okay, so that one went in with the new system.
They completely redid the whole system, didn't they?
Right,
Because
okay.
it wasn't installed properly. the previous alarm.
Right.
And that was why we had faults on the
Ah.
intruder alarm as well.
Okay, that's
Oh, I
answered my
remember
question,
that being
thank
done,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we
You
had,
had Evotech was
Yeah, I
It
remember
was
you
really
talking about
because we
faults,
had-
I now remember,
in the
yeah.
loft and
Yeah.
scrabbling around.
we
I
had
think
two
that's all been
quotes
done.
and we went for Evotech.
Just while we're on that as well, in relation to fire, and this is a sort of amber, on the website, the pavilion hire agreement, etc., associated documents that somebody wanted to hire the place would look at. I'm just wondering if it could do with a rethink, maybe the sort of job for the new member of staff, because at the moment, when you look at it, there's more emphasis on putting rubbish in bins and tidying up after yourself than there is in making yourself aware of the fire exits and etc. The way it's laid out, it's been like that for a
We
long
need to do a fire
time.
risk assessment for the pavilion, so all hirers would have a fire risk assessment, that's
Sent to them as part of their hire, yeah.
along with the access.
Sent to them as part of their booking, yeah? Okay, great, I just.
But I
think
get,
Yeah.
within the booking form, maybe we need to include a
the information
sentence of,
given, I think, the
it
priorities.
is your responsibility to make yourself aware of.
And the more
where
important
fire
stuff near the
exits
top,
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Right, so we'll move on to, what did I say? We'll move on to Legionella risk assessment. Start with council officers.
He has put November 25, and I do believe we don't have to do it that often. I think it's he said it's every 3 years. I'm sure, but I haven't got that piece of paper with me, typically. But he advised that we have one Legionella done 1 year and one done the next, but we need to double check that. It might not
What, a
have,
full audit?
yeah, the external audit.
Yeah.
So have you got, you're on page 9, are you looking at the action points?
Page 9. I haven't read this one, I confess, just thought I'd put that out there.
Okay, the
Oh,
first
the
two
red.
action points were medium. But the third one was consider how the responsible person would demonstrate they have Legionella understanding and are competent. Assess training with certifications, often the first step.
See, the whole Legionella thing across each property is about competency of staff, overseeing the testing, the record keeping, etc., etc. So my suggestion would be to start with training for Claire on being competent in those things, in managing.
Yeah, I mean, I've agreed with all of the high action points that they've suggested there, that you need to be properly trained.
Could I recommend that cleaner who does the Legionella testing
Yeah.
also does training?
I think so.
I would
There needs
definitely
to be
do
a-
with that.
There needs to be a top layer and then
Yeah,
the runners, as it were.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
it-
if you're not, if you're, on holiday, anyway, somebody else would have to pick it up. I know she does anyway, but for example, or like now, she's on holiday.
What formal
You want to
training has
pick
she
up.
had?
she did it prior to joining us.
Oh, right, okay.
So,
Fair enough. But the level of training that Claire would need as the proper officer is a rung above the level of training needed for the weekly checker operative person.
is it weekly against?
Or whatever it is.
Monthly.
Monthly, thank you,
Right.
yeah, we did
Or
speak about
whatever
that
it is.
beginning of the.
Shows you what I know about it, yeah.
That's right, I said weekly a few months ago, but yeah.
So would we agree to that? Yeah, training
Yeah.
for staff, yeah?
Yes.
Would it be worth doing the deputy clerk when one is in place, if we get one in place?
Yeah,
As a standard thing, when
I would say that would be
When Claire's
something.
on holiday,
Yeah.
then she or he steps up, and then obviously
Yeah.
the next one's what you just said
I
about
would
the
say if we get
cleaner.
Claire sorted to
Yeah.
You
That's a
appoint
priority.
Billy first.
That's a
yeah,
priority.
And then when the new person comes in.
Yeah, to be fair though, Claire's in charge of the programme of management. If she's on holiday for a couple of weeks, she's already said, by the way, next Tuesday you're doing the Legionella testing. And Sarah, and perhaps the deputy clerk, is trained on how to do that.
Will they do the Castle Medal pavilion as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the two.
We only have two sites
Two.
because you only
Right.
have it where there's hot water.
Right,
So our other sites only have cold water, so you don't need it.
Actually, I think that's not, sorry to challenge you there.
That's all.
Based on what I've read and what I've been told, you need it in every site, which is why I'm wondering why we didn't have one at the cemetery. Did you?
Does that change then? Sorry, yeah,
I googled
I'm
it.
happy to be corrected.
I googled it. And actually I've been told by somebody else who I asked because I wasn't sure. Yeah, because if you think about it, the hot water tank can heat up by the sun and get to above whatever it is that Legionella starts forming, and I can't think of what that number is.
Do you mean a cold water tank?
The cold water tank can heat up with the sun, heat up, and of course the pipe work can heat it up. And once it reaches a certain temperature, it can easily, yeah.
They also
What if
make
you
us,
don't have any tank?
sorry, is with most of it, is say for example when I was to be serving, when we was away on operations, when the accommodation was being used up to 4 months or a small space, that's also a thing, so it needs to be regularly used.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
because it sits in the shower head
And
or
that
in the table, yeah.
negates any chance of Legionella
You need to run the
disease.
water. If there isn't a tank, I don't know, but the point is you need a certificate to prove that the building doesn't need Legionella testing.
When they came to do the Legionella, what was the conversation around those two sites and cold water?
We didn't ask them to do the cemetery, did we?
No, we didn't, because we'd had the information that we didn't need it.
Who from?
I can't remember, but it was someone on the council, I think.
Is there a kitchen in there then? Is there anything what gets used, or is it just like water as a water tap to hose?
In the cemetery,
Mm.
in the cemetery there's just a toilet and a wash basin.
So it's just a washing hands.
Is there a water tank?
I don't think so, I think it's just straight off the mains, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would guess it's just straight off the mains because you'd only have a tank if you,
And the
So
same for
there's no
the same
heat.
for the public toilets must be straight off the mains as well.
that's what I would say, definitely.
is that
There's no
from
head-
what-
there's no roof space for them.
No, from what you read, if it,
Well, I didn't know if there was a tank at the cemetery.
no,
Yeah.
but did it say just if it was offered even
No,
cold
the
water?
bit I was reading is about even if it's no hot water and it's only cold water, you still need to Legionella. Can I propose then that we get certificates?
Clarification.
Get certificates, yes, not just Google it like I did, but actually get a certificate from an authority to say,
it's not-
We don't
not
need it.
required.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be right, it might still be the case that you've got to run the water.
I suspect so because I have heard what Mick said as well.
We used to have unused toilets at work.
Because if you switch the tap off, it's still come from the mains, it's still sitting in your bit of the pipework, isn't it?
Because
Yeah.
when we used to be away and come back, the guys, their drills were to run their taps for 5 minutes
Right.
or more. I can't bloody remember that, but it's 5-10 minutes.
Okay, but where we do have hot water is
The pavilion.
the pavilion.
And
Right, so if we look at the pavilion, that is obviously a different kettle of fish. But it's again, as you said, it's defining first the high ones, the responsible person, the training, etc., etc. So we're fully agreed that that will be necessary to do.
was that taking all the four buildings here then? Tax offices, Castle Medal and cemetery, will it?
No, we only need to, well, we're trying to get everything certificated as to whether it needs Legionella
Then- oh,
testing,
right,
etc.
okay,
So we
right.
need to make that assessment.
Yep.
So we know we're in the right place.
Yes.
But with the pavilion, we have these two huge storage tanks for generating enough hot water for the showers. And the only source of hot water for the kitchen is the same tanks. So if you're in there and you want hot water in the kitchen, you have to still heat up those 300 litre tanks. And that takes a lot of electricity. And you think, well, should we be actually really seriously thinking with a pavilion about a new way of heating the water? So that in the kitchen, you just have an instant hot water type.
Yeah.
One of those things on the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or under the sink, one of those under the sink will just go straight into a hot water tank.
that's a quart. That, I think the cheapest for public use to have one of the traditional.
Just as the
Yeah.
standard,
Yeah.
you know, instant hot water.
Instant hot water.
The large tanks that you probably need for the showers to run off, because I don't think you'd be able to heat enough water. If you think of a domestic shower, running off 7 kilowatt or whatever, is it better to have instant showers rather than stored water showers? Because it takes, as far as I understand, it could take up to 4 hours to heat those tanks up to the
Required temperature.
Wow.
In fact, when I looked on the data from the manufacturers, it didn't give the values, but the previous one, the 250 litre tank was something like 2.5 hours.
When the Neil, the manager, goes in, he has to put them on, don't he? He has to put the.
Correct, and you press the buttons for the boost control, and the maximum is 2 hours. So you have to do that.
So he has to run back in
Well,
again and turn it on
so
again.
it just doesn't sit right with me that it's designed well for its end use. It doesn't seem right.
So could we change the showers to be electric showers?
Did we have somebody ask a question why the electric bill was so high?
Last week.
Last week, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
And this is the reason.
Well, exactly, because even the casual users, if they you know, if they follow the instructions that I wrote, they would go in and press the boost buttons to get the hot water. You may be better off just using the kettles if you're only going to do a little bit of water.
I must say, I read those instructions today and actually even I thought I could work it based on. So
Very good
great,
instructions.
thanks for that. But as soon as you start mentioning kilowatts, I lose consciousness because I don't understand things like that. But I agree with you, 2 hours of electricity to heat those tanks up, for which whatever
Minimum
we charge.
2 hours.
Longer than 2 hours, for whatever we charge for hire over the facility doesn't seem to match up for me. The only thing I'd say about, are you talking about more like a combi boiler, like we have a combi boiler so it just heats the water as on
No,
demand?
because you're running off gas, you've not got gas.
Yeah, that, right, so electric,
So we'd have to go
You're
electric
stuck with
showers.
electric at the
but how
pavilion.
does that heat the water then, just on demand?
Yeah.
Well, if you remember, if you have an electric shower at home, it's 7 kilowatt, 11 kilowatt, or 12, whatever, but that's a single head. Now you've got to remember there are 4 heads in each of the changing rooms, so you make.
Can we create enough power to shower 10 footballers at the same time?
I'm going to get, when I get back to the office, my office tomorrow morning, I will look up all the options we've got for hot water for that area. In
No?
an ex-builder and a plumber
Right,
myself,
okay.
I will look up and find out what options are
But it has to be
available.
electric, John.
Pardon?
It has to be electric.
Electric, I'll just see if there's any options we've got available, which can
But I
cost us.
think, you know, for whatever reason, we have a system that is not actually optimum for the way the pavilion is being used.
And without going off on a tangent, it doesn't last long enough to get a football team through in a certain
That's
level.
right, yes.
Yeah.
So it definitely
Okay.
needs some purpose.
So
Showers.
I think we have to review the
Messy
heating,
healthy
the hot water heating system for the pavilion to tackle the Legionella
Few things.
risk and also the provision of hot water as and when it is required by the users.
Yes,
Okay?
okay.
4 minutes can significantly reduce the number.
But that's what
we just said ourselves.
it happens at the moment anyway, isn't it?
It's getting, regularly used.
I think once we've got, I think the training is really quite an urgent priority.
Yeah.
And once the training's being done, then I think we should revisit the whole
The whole,
Legionella. Yeah.
setup for.
We
But
did do
meanwhile-
training 2.5 years ago, but unfortunately, someone died that afternoon.
I
On
think,
your
Okay.
training.
meanwhile, at the same time, can we get certificates for the cemetery?
Yes, get them
I'll look into it.
confirmed as to what their requirement is.
Thank you.
Right, next item, disability access risk assessment for 3 locations, council offices, Castle Meadow Pavilion and cemetery building.
Are you going for first?
We'll go in order, council officers.
Well, the thing,
The alarm.
I was just going to say, I think the elephant in the room is in terms of what everyone's dreading focusing on is subjects that have been brought to the council's attention in recent months relating to the lift and the toilets. Now, my understanding of this report, please correct me if I've misread it, is that a lift is not legally required and that we have a chairlift which is deemed suitable in the assessor's opinion.
Yeah. Because
However,
this is a risk assessment.
It's
a risk assessment, isn't it? It's not an audit of accessibility, it's an audit
I thought it was an audit of accessibility.
It is, but it's the accessibility, the issues, let's say the equipment and facilities we have for access,
Yeah,
he has said they're adequate.
right.
Yeah.
So have
But
other people
He
drawn-
does highlight that we need to consider providing disabled access to toilet
Yes,
And a visible alarm.
and
and a visible alarm.
Same
A
as
flashing. So
That was
Yeah.
the whole
That was
alarm
the only
system
red one.
throughout all the properties needs to have a visible alarm
Mhm.
pavilion.
I just think it's important that we agree formally our response to one of the outcomes of this in relation to the lift, the facility we have, because that has been obviously brought to our attention.
I agree, but I think what's been brought to our attention is that what we have doesn't provide enough accessibility for all situations. And that maybe considering a through the floor lift would be a way the town council could look in future to improve that accessibility. We are accessible at the moment, but not comprehensively accessible.
I don't disagree with you there. I just think it's important that we formally agree that then, because
Yeah.
the lots of comments have been made in public, as you know, and at meetings, and there was a suggestion that meetings are not accessible to everybody because of the facilities we currently have and don't have.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we conclude whether or not we agree that the facilities we have are adequate. I take what you're saying about maybe future and consider installing a lift, but there's been comments, oh, well, that lift is not suitable for some people, it's not suitable for wheelchairs, it's not da. And this assessor, in my understanding, has concluded that it is suitable for access for people in wheelchairs.
But I
It
think
goes on about more about the training than it does the actual not being able to
Yeah,
use it.
yeah.
But I think he was assessing what we had as our accessibility provision and saying
He's assessing what we've got in place, isn't he?
it is okay for what you've got, but ideally, in an ideal world, you'd revisit your toilet provision.
We'll leave toilets out of it just from, well, it's part of it, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just talking
Because
about the lift, yeah.
And I would say you could consider revisiting the lift side of things.
It should provide if possible, is the words he used. I agree with you, we should look at that in the future, but I just thought it was important to note that the assessor has not told us our building is inaccessible.
I would read it that he's saying we are not putting the public at risk who are using our accessibility equipment. They can get upstairs, they can get downstairs, we provided a...
Oh, so you're seeing it as a risk assessment of the equipment? I saw it as accessible to the building, that's a different thing.
I think that's a different audit, when you're looking at the accessibility of the building as a,
Why would he say then should provide a lift if possible? If he's only risk assessing the lift, he wouldn't say, for the chairlift that we have, he wouldn't say should provide a lift if possible.
I don't think he does he?
I read it, I haven't, I can't.
I mean, one of the
deny
things
it.
it's got in medium as well is it is recommended appropriate handrails and grab rails are to be installed.
But
Right,
that,
well, I've made my point anyway, so
but that will be for
That's
the
in the-
toilet area, wouldn't
Yeah, that's in the.
Right, okay, have I misread that?
So at the moment, there's none of that.
In the
Yeah, okay, cool.
this meeting's being recorded, right? So I have made my point, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay. So
Do you want that minuted?
No, it's fine.
Okay. With the existing chairlift that we've got, it won't take a motorised scooter.
correct.
Should the council consider purchasing a manual wheelchair so that if someone is in a motorised scooter, for them to get upstairs, they could go into the wheelchair and use that? Because at the moment, you arrive at the top of the stairs and how do you get into the chamber if you can't walk?
Have you, okay, so, yeah,
I mean, surely if we got that, that would negate, that would put the standard for what you're saying, that it is set for purpose, but it's not set for purpose for
everything.
everything. And with a wheelchair, it would then negate that, because then it could be left at the bottom, and it'd be down to also the member of public with their partner.
Well, it could be upstairs and then we know someone was coming.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll
that's
take
why
it
we
downstairs,
have
meet them
the notification if someone's got access requirements, because I've got a wheelchair in the garage, I would put that in the back of the car. Or I'd go to Shop Mobility and borrow one, but
But we could purchase one.
Yeah.
They're
and
not
keep it.
that
And
expensive.
Yeah.
Um,
that would increase the options.
yes, definitely.
But I think if you were thinking in a grander future scheme, then you might consider a lift that was capable of taking the modern power chairs, etc. And that would need a serious rethink by the council as to that lobby area. You might have to completely restructure it. Plans were drawn up 10 years ago for something similar to that.
More than that,
More than that, was it?
20.
There's a quote that I've put a link onto the agenda. There's a quote that we got in, can't remember, fairly recently.
Oh, that was the lift company, Kohler.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
There are proper plans.
prior to that there were planned layouts of
Oh, like building plans, sorry, yes.
So
I think it was when the staircase
See
was
yourself until we can.
put in,
Yeah.
because the staircase was in a different place.
So I think, there is the possibility there of re-engineering that lobby area to allow a standard.
Was it due to cost? Is that why they do that? No one knows, no idea.
Do you think for the time being we get a wheelchair then and that overrules it until we can actually look at whatever funding we think for
It
that?
just adds another option.
Option, yeah.
Yes,
It just adds another option, but I
Yes.
think longer term, the council will have to consider
a more
a more long-term
advanced
solution,
situation in whatever they're going to do.
whatever it is.
I think it's confusing for us because this is a qualified inspector that we've paid for, and the question is, does the site have an adequate platform lift installed? And the answer is yes. So, I'm not disputing anything you've just said, Alan.
Okay.
But here we are, novices in this field, that's why we pay a professional.
Yeah.
And that's why I was, yeah.
If anything, for me, the priority is the downstairs disability toilet.
Well, yes, absolutely, yeah.
And I think the wheelchair is a brilliant idea, and I don't know why we never thought of it before.
Well, Claire suggested.
In fairness,
maybe-
Claire-
It's so, but now you said it, it's so obvious.
Yeah,
Yes.
Claire's
I have-
She has
And
mentioned
it's
it before.
I apologise,
But
but I haven't
I
heard
do
that.
have one at home.
But it
because-
doesn't, it's
But it's another aid to the option.
it's another option, it's not necessarily incorporate absolutely everybody, but yes,
No,
it will
no.
incorporate more people, yeah.
Okay.
Passenger lifts should be provided where possible.
Do do you want to do I know it's amber, but do you want to do anything on the disabled toilet?
I think,
That gets someone in to see if it's possible.
Yeah, I think.
I think,
Yeah.
and there are specialist companies now who will just come in and say you need an area 220 millimetres by 1500 millimetres and we can put you
Which is the specification for a disabled toilet.
sorry?
Can I make a request, a general request, that we change our vocabulary to accessible toilet henceforth, because I think that's the
Yeah.
appropriate language.
Yeah.
And I totally agree, I think we should get professionals in to assess the setup and how they can incorporate an accessible toilet, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we move on to the pavilion then? I think that was okay.
Was that where the low level lighting or something came up with that one, was it?
So we've got the same about keeping corridors and everything clear of beacons, etc., which we have already accepted from a previous assessment. And the audible alarm system.
I
Visual?
know John needs to go now, because of his medication. if
My
that's okay.
medication, I need to
Okay,
get home for my medication, sorry that is.
that's all right, John. So
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna see you.
note you down in
Yeah, fine. Sorry,
2051.
but
No problem.
9 o'clock I have to be rigorously injection and tablets. It's the worst thing in life, I'll tell you. I'll see you soon then, Alan.
Okay,
See you everybody.
thank you much. John.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Right,
John.
bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Night, John.
Later. God bless.
I really don't like the layout of these reports, it's very difficult to know which bit is referring to which bit.
It's got the wrong layout.
Not just me then.
No, that's totally, you've got to,
So bin obstructing, because I've scanned down for the reds, bin obstructing, that's red, right?
Yeah.
And then it says sufficient contrast between wall and floor colours, now is that red or is that green? That's green. You have to start at the top, otherwise you lose your
Yeah.
way.
the problem is the brisk and the very low or the coloured bit is the end of the previous section.
Yes, but it's
And they
taken
haven't
me about
left the
3
gap
weeks
to
to
the
work
start of the
that
next
out,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
So the reds in this report is the bin, I think.
Well, was it then something obstructions in the corridor, wasn't it?
Yes, obstructions in the corridor.
Audio. Alarm
And then
system.
further down was the audible alarm.
What's wrong with the audio?
We haven't got one. Sorry,
Visual,
visual alarm.
yeah. Okay. Oh, there's, here we are.
Right, so that's page 22.
Yeah, visual alarm and standard the,
So the question is, sorry?
Alarm.
Yeah, fire. Fire, because we've only got a fire and an intruder.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the intruder doesn't need to be.
So it's not linked to a toilet then?
There is an alarm.
Oh, there
next
is
to toilet.
there is an alarm in the
a red,
accessible
should be like a
toilet.
red cord.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it was one of those alarms, I think.
but where does it go?
What page you on, sorry?
We're on page 22.
That does make a noise if it's pulled.
Okay,
It doesn't go anywhere, it just alerts other users, so
okay.
if you were on your own in there,
Presumably it's tested when, because the fire and the intruder are tested by Evotech, presumably they test that as well. Presumably, I've not read it.
yeah, but that would be an annual. Oh,
So there's the pavilion, like every other property we have, does not have any visual alarm system, flashing lights.
So the pavilion and the council office need that, don't they?
Well, it was even flagged for the cemetery. which I
I'm not sure I would perceive that to be particularly high.
They'll be a bit lower in my.
So is that the only red one?
Things to do.
So,
But if you were putting a fire alarm into the cemetery, I don't know whether it could be considered at that point, because at the moment there's no fire alarm up there. But if the person who was in the back room, grounds maintenance
Or
person,
something, yeah.
was deaf,
True.
this might seem a strange question, but there's no link to a fire station, is there, from the pavilion?
no, you just hope the neighbours.
So the fire alarm just goes off and tells you the building's on fire. And the visual alarm will be seeing the smoke and the flames, is it?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a fire in the kitchen whilst you were in the changing rooms, you wouldn't know, would you? I suppose it's a
Okay.
visual alarm. I mean, I don't know, with
Well,
no
yeah.
guidance on how.
The alarm would go off and you'd hear it in the changing rooms.
Yes, you would. I don't know what the guidance is on visual alarms, and in the council buildings it's more obvious, because most people are in that one, well, you've got the offices as well,
Yeah.
but I think we just need a surveyor.
Do they put
Surely in modern day, don't they have a combination unit that just does a sounder and a flash?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if you were considering putting a fire alarm at the cemetery.
I think there's a debate to be had about
Yeah.
any kind of alarm in the
I
centre.
think somebody needs to come and advise us
Advise
on
us.
the different types of alarms. I'm not an alarm specialist.
Okay, so the action boxes, as it were, is recommended that the hallways and landings be kept free from slip or trip hazards. Well,
We already discussed that one, haven't we?
On this particular day, the bin's moved. Oh no, the bin's still there.
Is that, weren't they done the same day?
Same photo.
and so we've agreed that we'll get expert advice in to advise on audible and visual alarm types. Okay,
Oh, it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? It's just,
alright, so cemetery. Wow, cemetery.
Did you, sorry, I'm going to go back to the alarm thing quickly at the pavilion. Did you decide whether that audible alarm service regularly is the one in the disabled toilet, in the accessible toilet, sorry?
I was going to check with Evatech.
And the reason I say that
If
is the
that's-
picture on the very last page is the door of the accessible
accessible-
toilet with the thing above it that
Yeah.
flashes if
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
pulls the cord. So
Yes.
it must be that's what it's referring to, is the alarm in the accessible toilet being serviced regularly, not the alarm being serviced regularly.
Because that just flashes, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It doesn't make, okay.
Oh, it doesn't make a sound.
Doesn't-
Well, I've never pulled it, to be fair, but
Actually, I think it does make a noise.
I think it makes a noise because
There's one here that does.
I think it does make a
The-
noise, but it does flash.
the
as
guy
well.
saying for this report is that it's that, judging by the picture, because that's what the picture is of, it's that alarm that's not serviced regularly.
Right,
The alarm
yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
building, it obviously is, but
That's why I was asking
the
if,
accessible toilet alarm isn't
yes,
serviced
that's why I
regularly.
was asking if it's done when the fire and the intruder are tested. This one needs to be tested as well.
Yes.
Although in fairness, I'd have thought our weekly or monthly alarm testing, whatever that is, would include this. Because there's one here and the light flashes and the sound is made. So.
But back to your point about having the red folder or it done electronically, if it's not marked anywhere, how do we know
Indeed,
it's being done?
Yeah,
indeed.
so it has to be added to that
Yeah.
checklist.
now do we need to extend? It's nearly 9 o'clock.
yes,
Okay, I propose an extension to the meeting. What have we got? One more. To 20 minutes.
So what have we got still to do?
We've got last
cemetery.
disability access and the consideration of the health and safety manual and health and safety policy. Okay, so the final one is cemetery building. Oh, what was that?
two ramps. There's one in that. Which is a good point actually, do we need to have a ramp up there for anybody that wants to get into the chapel?
Or the toilet.
Oh, fair enough. Which I'm not quite sure how they'd get into the toilet up there, but
This can only be a temporary thing, isn't it?
you can get those ramps that, well, they have them for buses and stuff sometimes that they put down and,
Yeah.
You get a
It's-
metal
Yeah.
ramp that you put,
Is it 2 steps?
and it's got that
you can
non-slip
have it as
coating on it,
steps
isn't
as
it?
you like.
Yeah,
that
stuff.
that gritty
Yeah.
aluminium.
So I would say we look at purchasing a ramp to keep up there, but that would then also be on the back of those rooms being cleared, so we can store it correctly. Because at the moment, there's nowhere really to store it. Well, except the chapel side.
You could put it in the chapel. Well, you'd be principally probably opening the chapel and the toilet, so you're gonna have to have 2? Or you're gonna move it around?
Move it around, I think.
Then you'd have to make sure it could do
Both-
both sets of
both
steps,
doors.
because
I don't think you ever make that toilet accessible.
No.
And if you,
okay. So you'd have to consider whether that was going to be a facility you would make.
I mean, he doesn't specify, it just says to and from rooms. It doesn't say anything about the facilities up there. I don't think, does that? Anywhere else?
Well,
Again, what's
I
our
find-
legal duty to?
Well, I mean, the thing is, the toilet up there isn't, I would say,
Accessible, no.
accessible for
No.
public use anyway. It's more of a contractor's toilet, isn't it?
It is, it is.
So, I mean, I've never been up there and once I had a pregnant lady asked to use the toilet that was at the funeral, the big funeral we did. But, you know, other than that, I've never.
I've certainly cleaned it a couple of times on, you know, if I've been up there for ceremony or whatever.
Yeah.
I agree with you, it's no frills toilet.
Is it something that we stop offering? I mean, we don't offer it.
And it's only if somebody asks,
Yeah, I mean, I don't greet people that come to a funeral and say, oh, by the way, if you need to use the toilet, it's just there. You know, it's not something that we mention really, is it, to users for funerals?
that's why I'm curious as to the length of our duties.
I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned that, but.
Oh, have you?
Hmm.
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
Maybe I should, I don't know.
Well, usually you usher people into the chapel for someone to sit down and wait for the others to come.
Apart from the big one we've
Right,
done, I've only ever done like 4 family members, I've never had a lot of
okay.
people.
So, we're accepting there are comments here with regard to accessibility at the cemetery, but we're not convinced that we need to put that high on our priority list.
I mean, I think we need to look at a ramp for the chapel, definitely, because if we do have people coming that need to wait or anything.
Can I suggest somebody does some research on this, because I don't know whether or not we either legally or commonly expected to provide toilet facilities at a cemetery. I mean, obviously we have to do the right thing.
I don't know either.
But I think
It's none in
it's research is required. I must say, if I go to a burial, I don't necessarily expect toilet facilities to be available, but
Okay.
What, at Devizes Road or?
but no, I've never been there, generally, anyway.
No, sorry, Claire just said there's none in
there's
Salisbury.
definitely none at the avenue.
No, there's none at the avenue.
And that's new,
Yeah, and that's new.
so obviously there is no requirement.
There's none at Devizes Road, I don't think.
I've never been to a lavatory in the cemetery.
Okay, but if we had somebody visiting the cemetery and needed to use the facility, do we just say it's at your own risk?
Well, I
Or
think we
do you-
have to, don't we?
Do we just want some?
Say it's at your own risk?
Well, I think what the point is, that toilet is
It's
for
not.
private use. it's not a public toilet, is it? So
No.
Yeah, like Claire said, for
Discretion.
contractors, yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, if there is something going on and somebody comes and asks you, you can say, well, it's for contractors, but
We
you're welcome.
do, but we can't.
Yes,
yeah.
no, I mean, you wouldn't want to deny somebody, you'd just say, it's for the contractors, but you know.
yeah.
If you're happy to
Yes,
use it, go
exactly,
ahead.
it's not designed as a public toilet, yeah.
Right, so we're not going to strongly engage with those recommendations, other than possibly looking into
A ramp for
a
the
ramp to
chapel
the chapel.
side. Yeah, I think we need to do that because
Well, I would suggest you look at the option both sides and see if one ramp can do the two jobs if you had to.
but
Why
somebody
would
said they're
somebody-
different heights.
Why would somebody be going into the other side?
If they needed a loop.
Right, so we need to have that debate first.
I think
Is
if you had a toilet, you would.
Is it not the dropped curb from the pavement? Because at the moment, the pavement ends and it's not dropped.
No, it says into rooms.
Was that include that
So
as well?
if you were coming from Wilton in your motorised scooter
Yes.
and you got there,
And there's not a drop curb.
there's
is there?
not a drop curb.
It's a heck of a slope as well, actually, isn't it?
And having
You'd
been
have-
there the other week with the funeral directors, there is quite a drop as they were trying to manoeuvre out of the funeral cars, should we say.
I think it's probably the Wilton end where you need the dropped curb rather than the Bugford end.
He's not mentioned that though, the inspector.
It was mentioned to me by somebody who uses a
Yeah, I
scooter.
wondered if it was on the report, no.
But it does mention no ramps provided to and from rooms.
I think I definitely agree with purchasing a ramp, a bit like they have on train stations, that sort of
Yeah.
I think the whole debate about the toilet facilities is a debate to go on an E&A
Yes.
agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be next week though.
Can we look at a ramp from the chapel at the very least then?
Okay. Right, so that finishes that section. So the final section is to look at to note the receipt and consider any further actions of the health and safety manual and the health and safety policy as prepared by Workness.
Seems very comprehensive,
Yes.
is the word I'm looking for.
But that's what you're paying them for, isn't it?
Yeah,
To do,
absolutely.
And it's all generic
to
and
do
it's all
these
there.
things which go through a
and
huge number of topics that
I hope they soon learn that Wilton's in Wiltshire, not Dorset. So I've seen a couple of times.
they have to cut and paste.
yeah. I mean, and also working for a large company, we have something fairly similar.
So they will amend that bit then about the doors that I'm taking.
Yeah.
If we just do it ourselves.
I remember going through this a while ago, and I think we're entitled to trust them in terms of all its legalities and
Yeah.
things like that, aren't we? So,
I think it's an essential document to have.
we might need to refer to this when looking at our own lone worker policy, because I
Yeah.
suspect that's covered in here.
We might need to look at it for Legionnaires as well.
It doesn't say a lot on it.
It doesn't, but what it does say is at-risk systems include the hot and cold water storage and distribution system. I stand corrected, Councillor Blackman.
Storage.
Yeah, but we
If you've
don't,
got no storage.
no, but we just need to.
But we don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need that confirmed.
Yeah.
Still don't know it, to be honest.
Still don't know.
No, so, I thought it was literally only hot water, so,
Okay.
hands up.
No, it's fine, no. We can't all be,
We can know everything, can
and I only found out when I needed to find out.
we? Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
And the manual?
So What was the decision on the policy?
I'm
I
very
think,
happy to accept it.
yeah, it covers everything, it's done it all for us,
Yeah.
hasn't it? That's what we pay for.
it's
I propose we accept that.
a brilliant piece of work that's done for us, like you say.
I've got a proposer.
Oh, I'll second it,
All
sorry.
in favour?
Yeah.
Sure.
I do apologise.
Where's it? So that was the health and safety policy manual. What was the next one we're looking at? Shit. I'll just delete. Oh.
Health and safety handbook, and then the other one was the policy.
Now, my policy takes me to the handbook,
Yeah.
Oh, they,
takes me to the manual, which is the same.
And I've actually just sent it to mine.
Oh no, they are different, apologies,
Different.
my fault, sorry.
One says a policy manual,
Yeah.
and the other says a policy
Sorry, my fault.
I'll
I
just
think
send
safety
it to
handbook.
you.
maybe I've clicked on the wrong one.
I think I've done it the wrong way around as well.
I'm happy to accept it, it's got
What are we doing now?
a
The policy? or the
box
handbook?
in it to
handbook, I think.
keep a record of amendments made to any health and safety
Yeah.
things. What's this policy? Policy statement that's signed by the officer. Responsibilities for the clerk, and in the absence of the clerk, the assistant clerk or deputy clerk, which whoever says assistant here, but not split hairs over that. Health and safety rules, regulations, arrangements, yeah.
Is that the 58 page one?
56, yes.
No, no, mine says of 95.
Oh, that's the other one.
That's the other one.
Oh, hell, I'm on the wrong one, sorry.
Yeah, I kept clicking in and out of them.
May I make a comment? I haven't read this every single line of it
No,
before
I haven't.
tonight. Can we, whilst I suspect we're going to adopt it, can we also say that, if at any time we notice an obvious omission or something that doesn't affect us or
Something not
whatever,
relevant.
we can update as we go along?
Yeah.
Or not update as we go along, that's it. We can
Bring it
amend
to the
as deemed
attention and-
appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the only way, it's
But you'd have to
well
come back to
written out,
council.
but you'd have to,
Sorry?
Any amendments would have to come back to the council.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I accept
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
we won't, some things won't come to our attention until
you
we've
go-
experienced it
Yeah.
and think of a better way of dealing with it, or, or.
So
Hopefully
it's-
a lot of it we
it's a
won't have to
fle-
use, but
What's the word? Not agile document, I'm sure there's a word for it.
working document,
Working document, okay.
something like that.
I would say working document.
Working document
I'll
is
just
a-
accidentally
just a
stick
working
code on my
document.
phone.
That's,
Well, to be frank, it's what you should be doing with all policies, you update them as
It's
you
true.
need to,
Well, I was thinking that,
It's
when you
a
come across something,
especially health and safety.
usable document?
Dynamic,
Dynamic, yeah.
continuously improved document.
well, I'm not saying it's going to be.
So many different names for it we could use.
Shall I propose it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll propose we accept this.
I'll second again. Sorry.
All in favour?
To do it.
You carry on.
Thank you. Right, well, date of the next meeting is to confirm the date of the next meeting of Wilton Town Council, which will be on Tuesday the 4th of March 2025, 7 p.m. in room 2 of the Wilton Community Centre. And I close the meeting
thank you for attending.
at 21:14.